It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
And joining us now to talk about the entire situation, specifically the event yesterday, Chamber of Commerce, we have Bob Bailey, the opponent of Breanne Davis, on the line. Bob, welcome back to the program.
Good morning. Glad to be here.
So let's talk about her accusation. First off, I mean, we know there's a double standard. You were at that Pope County meeting. You heard her say, let's not talk about funding anymore because both people are getting money from outside the district. At that meeting, she didn't want to talk about all of the Little Rock Monolith Marble Palace establishment that are giving her money. They only wanted to talk about, they only wanted to talk about Conduit, quite frankly. But beside that, she is saying that you pulled out of the event at the chamber and saying that you're refusing to show up and debate her when you guys have debated before. But respond to her allegations.
Well, apparently she gets a lot more information than I get. We were in the truck actually knocking on doors and meeting small business people, and I got a call from the Chamber of Commerce that said, hey, Mr. Bailey, we'd like you to show up at this meeting. And I said, okay, what's the meeting about? I'm not there to get slammed or roasted or talked down to again, am I? And she said, oh, no, it's nothing like that. She said, we're meeting with Senator Womack, and after that meeting...
You mean Congressman Steve?
Chamber,
you mean Congressman Steve Womack?
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. Go ahead.
And we, as a chamber, just have a few questions we would like to ask you and Breanne. Well, I'm driving in the truck, and my schedule is plumb full to the top, And I said, I think we can do that, and yes, I would like to attend. Now, understand that I thought it was just a real small question and answer session. That's what she led me to believe. And then as it turned out, we did have a scheduling conflict, so we couldn't attend. Now, my campaign manager was so busy yesterday that she simply forgot to call him up and tell him. So about 10 till 5, I guess they'd probably been sitting there for 5 or 10 minutes. They called again and said, we would like to confirm your meeting. And I said, I'm sorry, did my campaign manager not contact you? And she said, no, we didn't. I said, I'm sorry, we have a scheduling conflict, and I am unable to attend. And she said, okay, thank you very much. And that was pretty much the extent of our conversation. And then we're rocking and rolling right along. We don't get done till 9:30, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock sometimes. And somebody sends me a video of this Breanne on Facebook, and if you look at that video, you can tell by her body language and by her facial expression she is not happy. And then it became evident to us that we literally dodged a bullet. It was another setup. Nobody told us it was going to be a debate. I had no idea, and as for stiffing them the second time, Misty and me were sitting in my office, and I said, Misty, did we miss something? And she got to checking the schedule, and she said, no. There is, as far as I'm concerned, there was no first time that we were supposed to be there unless they specifically set something up and neglected to tell us to be there.
Mm-hmm.
So
wow,
that's what that's about.
Wow. I mean, that's pretty. I mean, we know that they're going to be slick. I mean, these are the games that they're going to play. So you're saying that you originally it was a very informal. They just wanted to ask you some questions. The chamber did, and you thought it was going to be, kind of like, I don't know, cross a table or something. And then it turns out Breanne's there, and it turns out they want to have a debate. And really, I mean, what they wanted to do, I'm sure, is just continue to bring up the same thing, because that's what she brought up. She brought up funding from Northwest Arkansas, right? And, of course, that was weird because she had just said she didn't ever want to talk about it again. Now she's using it again. So I think you're right. I think it's safe to say that it probably was some sort of setup by the establishment, and that's a shame. That's truly a shame, Bob.
That seems to be pretty typical of their mode of operation. I'll give you a little backstory on a Republican meeting that we had the other night. All that was supposed to be about was Joe and Brenda coming down, explaining to the committee where they were from, what they were about, and why they were funding me. And the only thing I was supposed to do was introduce them. We heard that Brienne threw a fit. They bent over backwards to accommodate her. And the next thing I know, Joe and Brenda were standing up talking, and then I've got to give a speech. I'm like, what is this about? So we were totally blindsided on that ordeal. I was completely and totally flying by the seat of my pants on that.
Well, we played your speech, Bob, last hour, and you can get it at facebook.com/Conduit News after this broadcast ends, everybody, and it's fantastic. You need to listen to, everybody needs to listen to that first hour because we laid out the facts because we're not afraid of the facts. And I think you did a great job. And, you know, compared to her speech, which we actually did not play because it's like a snooze fest. The only thing, Brienne's speech wasn't about the issues. It was just about all of the people that she's worked with over the years. I mean, she just kept name dropping.
Right.
And she was dropping names that don't even support her today. They support you, which was odd.
That's pretty typical. I mean, she talks a lot, but doesn't say much, really.
Anyway, continue.
It was
I'm sorry.
obvious to us
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
that at that meeting, it was a set-up deal. There were several people, and it was pretty much a hostile environment for both me and my guests at that Republican meeting. I mean, we had no idea this was coming. I thought a lot of people said, why are you bringing Joe and Brenda down here? And I said, I'm not. They volunteered to come down here to set the record straight. Mm-hmm. That is a transparency issue with us.
Well, yeah, I mean, think about this. Think about this for a second, Bob, because Brienne's talking about funding from outside the district. You know, we know where her funding's coming from. It's outside the district. And we're not afraid of the facts, okay? And so when Joe and Brenda come down and meet the people and explain why they feel passionately about limited government in Arkansas and how senators affect all Arkansans, is Michael Lamoureux going to the Pope County? Is Michael Lamoureux going to the Pope County Republicans so he can speak and explain why it's just really necessary for Big Pharma to support Brienne Davis? Is Bruce Hawkins? Is Bruce Hawkins going? Are any of the other lobbyists, are they going to Pope County and being transparent and saying, hey, this is why we're funding Brienne Davis's campaign. We're from Little Rock and we believe in Little Rock. You know, no, they're not doing that. Of course not. And so when you really contrast the two motivations, you have one side that is not afraid of transparency, and you have the other side that is concealing the their motivations. Go ahead, Bob.
It was. I thought it was interesting that we found out later that some of the people that were raising Cain at the meeting, so to speak, had various ties to Brienne that we did not know of before that meeting. A lot of it's got to do with medical marijuana. You've probably seen the documents.
Yeah.
Of where certain individuals are all tied in with that. It became apparent to us why one of the pharmacists down there was supporting her. He's also tied in with that. Things are becoming a lot more apparent, and it's becoming more apparent to a lot of people here in Russellville that as this thing skeets on along, as time goes on, she's pretty much a Republican in name only. Mm-hmm. Why would a Republican candidate intentionally solicit Democratic votes just to swing an election? And I got to give her credit for that. It worked. Mm-hmm. They had several hundred Democrats come in there and swing the election. We've got Facebook posts where several of them thought it was pretty funny. They were bragging about it. And apparently that's a thing here in Arkansas that I was unaware of. You know, this whole political thing is new to me, and I'm kind of naive in some areas. I'll admit it. I'm used to dealing with people of like mind, people that tell you the truth, people that have good morals, people that have the same ideals and thought process that I do. And it's kind of new turf for me to deal with people that talk out of both sides of their mouth, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm still getting used to that, having a hard time, but everybody says that's politics, you know?
Yeah. So this is very interesting to me. One of the people at the meeting a couple of nights ago, Bob, who was on Brienne's side and was asking a ton of questions, he identified himself, according to the audio tape, as a Mike Wilkins. And Joe, we have this document. Go ahead and throw this document, the PDF that I sent you. if you look at this PDF that we have here, and this is all public record, you can see where Mike Wilkins is applying for a medical marijuana cultivation facility. Oh, wait for it. Outside of the district. Outside of the district, everyone. But you can see right there the registered name, Michael Wilkins. And that's pretty interesting. We've got the document right here that you can see. We've got, relevant stuff redacted and things like that. But, yeah, they want one in Pine Bluff, Arkansas. And so this is a very interesting document. So it's interesting that those who are supporting Breanne Davis, we've already connected the medical marijuana to her campaign, but now we have somebody who actually wants something from government. And so if you, Bob, are not the kind of guy that is going to give people things from government except liberty, maybe that's some of the motivations there.
Yeah, the whole picture becomes a little more clear, doesn't it?
Yes. Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
We're finding out stuff every day that just absolutely blows me away. Now, you have to understand why she is harping on the fact that most of my money is coming from Northwest Arkansas. Really, it's the only thing they've got to harp on. Mm-hmm. And some of her hardcore supporters, they're convinced that my PAC is like her PACs. And they're constantly dragging him through the mud saying, well, he's being funded by two people in Northwest Arkansas.
Which is not.
And they're buying his vote, and they're expecting him to do this. And do you really want people from Northwest Arkansas running Russellville? While totally ignoring the fact that most of her fundraisers have been in Little Rock. Most of her big support is coming from the Marble Palace down there. I mean, they don't want to talk about that stuff. And you heard the video the other day where Breanne was smart enough to say, yeah, this needs to be a non-issue. Let's just not talk about it.
Yeah, she was the last to speak, and the entire meeting had been about, and questions had been about, where's your funding coming from? And then she gets up to speak and says, we don't need to talk about where my funding's coming from. And then she goes on to give.
That's right.
And it was such a setup. It's like, hang on a second. You really don't want to talk about where your funding's coming from.
That was one of the reasons that she insisted to the committee that she be the last one to speak. See, she wasn't even invited. It was a non-issue. All Joe and Brenda were going to do was say, here's who we are, here's what we do, here's why we do it. She found out about it, and I understand she pitched a little hissy fit and insisted that it turned into something that it wasn't meant to be.
Right.
Well, apparently all this went on, and I didn't have a clue. All I knew, I was just going to show up and introduce Joe and Brenda, and that was the end of it.
It was just, exactly. It was just supposed to be, a conversation about why they feel the need to be involved. And then she found out about it, and she tried to turn it into some sort of candidate forum. When all they were talking. Go ahead.
She's been wanting to have a debate with us, and as you know, in politics, it's usually the weaker candidate that wants to debate because they have nothing to lose and everything to gain. And from here on out, I'm being very, very cautious. I mean, I get a gazillion phone calls a day from people that I don't know. Everywhere we've been door knocking, the response has been very, very positive. So we're just going to continue keeping on. We're going to hit the doors. We're going to make the phone calls. We're going to met a lot of small business people yesterday, got excellent responses.
Good.
Everywhere we go to eat, we're talking to people and handing out cards. That's what we're going to focus on.
Bob Bailey, I appreciate it, sir. Thank you so much for giving the people of District 16 a viable conservative alternative. And, sir, we will talk to you soon, okay? Be safe on the campaign trail.
All right. Thanks for having me.
All righty. Bob Bailey, everybody. We're going to take a break. Back in just a moment.